Hello, everybody. Welcome to World Without Rule Law, Sunday night live, Preppers and Patriots podcast. I'm trying to do this live for the first time. I just want to talk about something supporting the concept of community. I'm going to give it a minute or so, see if anybody comes in. If not, maybe I'll just shut it down and make a video instead. Looks like I got one viewer. Hello, two viewers. Hello, whoever's there. See if I got one viewer. I'm just going to give it another minute. Anybody here? Showing one viewer, not responding. Daniel, God is my judge. Hey, brother. It's my old friend Daniel. Thanks for coming in, Daniel. I am going to, I don't know if I can. I apologize, Daniel. I don't do this enough, and I have no clue what I'm doing. You are first, sir. And okay, well, I got two viewers. Maybe that's all I'm going to get. Daniel is responding. So I wanted to talk a little bit about supporting the concept of community, right? So in this genre, like the prepper, patriot, homesteader genre, we talk a lot about community, building community, supporting community, whether it be a mutual assistance group or uh, a group to bug out with or survive with when the tough times come. However, community looks to you, to each person, it could be individual. Well, I did a video a while back talking about like supporting local, like farmers and homesteaders, like maybe going a little bit out of the way to buy honey locally or produce, or rather than shopping at the big box stores. And that can go all the way down to like the bicycle shop on the corner rather than, going into Walmart or one of these big box stores to buy your bicycle. That it could really apply to anything, clothing stores. So, hey, Meredith, how are you? Thanks for joining us. And I grew up in the '60s and '70s, and back then, there was no Walmart, right? There was none of these places, and so like we all had local shops, bike shop, clothing shop, shoe stores. Every business had its own little, yeah, farmers markets, exactly. Like, and that's something you still see today in the rural areas, even here. And we're kind of not really a big city, but we're like 50,000 people, and we still see some farmers markets. And so the video I made was just talking about that and what I believe is prudent, to try to support those people that are local, and that when you go there and you spend your money in those venues, they turn around and reinvest that money back in the local economy. And I think that's good for everybody, right? So this is kind of along that lines, but a little bit different. I'm talking about the prepper community, the homesteader community, the patriot movement community. Look at what we have in this country with, now they're tearing down the Civil War monuments and these groups. And I don't want to call any of them out by name, but there's leftist groups out there that are causing trouble. And for some reason, it's being ignored. We're not seeing hey, Ken from Teddy's Gun Shop jumped in. How's it going, brother? Thanks for joining us. And so those things are being ignored, right? Like, so they're tearing down these monuments, these like statues of these Civil War people. I mean, how crazy is that? Listen, that's part of this country's history. And we need to teach our kids and learn from those experiences, not erase them from history, which you can't do anyway, right? But there's people in the South that, their grandfathers, their uncles, brothers, husbands, wives, whatever, they lost people in that war. And so now they're seeing these monuments torn down. Why? There's no reason for it. And where does it end? Where does it end when anybody disagrees with these people? Then Ken's local guy to me, he's naming some of the places. Tommy's, that was a bicycle shop. Howard's, I bought my shoes there when I was a kid. My mom took me there. Susie's, Stars, right? These are local places. And so these people, when you spent your money there, they were local people. They turned around, they spent that money back, invested it back into the community. Now you go to Walmart, the money goes to some corporate bigwig, someone who even knows. So, but like when we look at what's going on in this country now, these leftists, they're pushing their agenda. And we as conservatives, we as, right-leaning, and whether it be, Judeo-Christian or patriot, prepper, homesteader, all the above, one of the above, several of the above, whatever, we kind of all fit into the same genre, right? The same conservative values, the same approach to things. We, as a group, are being steamrolled by these leftist, these organizations that are pushing this leftist agenda. Hey, JP, how's it going, brother? Thanks for joining us. And so if we look at that, we need to stick together. As right-wing conservatives, and again, whatever flavor that takes. If it takes, if you're a Judeo-Christian valued person, if you're a prepper, a homesteader, a patriot, Second Amendment guy, right? Like, well, I guess that kind of falls under the patriot title. But we need to support each other. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. Hey, Redneck Prepper, how's it going, brother? If we want to survive, if we want to sustain ourselves against these leftist agenda pushing groups, we need to unify ourselves. And that could be something as simple as supporting each other here on YouTube, through social media, and that could take any form, right? Like, so, okay, let's just say I'm going to look right here. I see like the Redneck Prepper. I see Ken from Teddy's Gun Shop. Daniel God is my judge. How can I support them? How can I, even if I'll take Daniel, for example, he doesn't monetize his channel. So I'm not going to go to his channel to support him monetarily, but he's putting a message out. So what if I go and watch his videos and like them and share them and tell people about his channel and my videos, steer traffic there? Same thing with Ken from Teddy's Gun Shop, right? He's got a few subscribers. He's a relatively small channel. He's a Second Amendment guy, right? He's in the same fight that we are. And so what if I go to his channel, watch his videos, like them, give him the thumbs up, comment, encourage them, and give them support that way. Steer viewers from my channel toward his channel. Is that not a form of support? Is that not a way to help build this community? I'll say this local community. And Daniel, he's hundreds of miles away from where I am. Yet when I look at him, when I relate to him, I feel that he's part of my local community here on YouTube because we share the same values. We're pushing in the same direction. And so we may have different approaches as to how we do that, right? But now, just to jump to the side a little bit, I want to talk about YouTube. what they're doing with the demonetization. I'm seeing a lot of my videos now demonetized. I did a video months ago, and it was entitled Racism. And so it was, speaking out against racism. Why is that demonetized? Like, what are they saying? They're for racism? I don't know. Like, no, because of course they didn't watch the video and see the context of it. Some bot, some algorithm picked up a word they didn't like and they just demonetized it. I did a poem. I did a narration of a poem that I did, and it's entitled "The Real Villain" or "The Villain Within" or something. I can't remember the exact name of it now. I did it months ago, but it's a poem about the tragic shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School several years back, 2012. Now, why is that demonetized? It's a poem, so there's things there. Obviously, it's not done by a person, it's done by an algorithm. And there's an agenda to shut down what we're trying to say as conservatives. And so that bothers me. And I think we need to stick together. Us that share the same conservative values need to row the boat in the same direction. And again, that could come in the form of supporting each other's channels. For instance, you know anybody, a YouTube channel you follow that's on VidMe? I just started an account on VidMe. Come on over. I can start to monetize. I can start to put a message across if I get 50 followers. Anybody that I know from here that has an account on VidMe, I follow them just to show them encouragement, just to show them support. Same thing with Steemit. I look for the people that are in this movement, people that I know from YouTube. Some of them I've seen in videos, and they've mentioned that they started something on Steemit. I'll go there and I'll follow them just to support them. And it's not even about monetary support, right? It's about encouragement. It's about sharing the same message. And so I think that's important. And I started my account on VidMe a couple days ago, and I've got a few people that came in, mostly from my YouTube followers, that did follow me, and thank you for doing that. Then there's Patreon. I've got a few supporters on Patreon, and so I try to support anybody, people that I know, and I follow their message here on Patreon if they're there as well. And I think that's a way that we, as the YouTube community or as a community of content producers, can support each other, the message that we're putting out. And so, I just wanted to put that out there, and because I equate it to, like I said earlier, there's only a couple viewers in here. I'll kind of say it again quick, but I did a video a while back about supporting farmers markets and buying local honey, buying, whatever. So, okay, so like, am I going to pay a little more for produce at a farm or a farm stand than I will at, Super Walmart or one of these big box grocery stores? Maybe. I don't even think it's even about money. I think it's about convenience most of the time, right? I think that's what, like, Ken from Teddy's Gun Shop put out, name those local stores: Tommy's, Howard's, Susie's, Stars, right? So Tommy's was a bike shop, Howard's was a shoe shop. And like, you wanted to get, your bike fixed, you went to Tommy's. You want to get shoes, you went over to Howard's. Stars was a department store. You needed hardware, maybe you'd go up there. They sold the albums, and Stars was unique. They kind of sold everything, right? So it was many stops. I remember going with my mom when I was a kid on a Saturday. She'd load us in the station wagon. We'd go downtown. It'd be a whole day's event because you'd have 8 stops to make. The market, then you go here. And now you can get in your car and go to one stop and get everything you need. And I think those places tend to be cheaper because of the way they operate. But I think it's more about convenience than it is about the money aspect of it. I think people now, they want everything quick. They want to go park their car once, go into the store, get everything they need and leave and go on to their next adventure, so to speak, right? And so that video was about maybe going out of your way a little bit, support that local farmer that's struggling, selling produce, on the end of his wagon at the end of the road or whatever, even though maybe you're only going to get produce. You're not going to knock 10 things off your list in that one stop. And you might go a couple of miles out of your way, and you might even pay a few extra cents or whatever. But you're helping someone who's local, someone that's got the same values. They're trying to self-sustain. They're trying to provide a decent food for their neighbors to eat, and I just think that that's important. And I think we need to do that. We need to, as a group, and not that we need to do it. Like, I'm not the kind of person that tells other people what to do. I'm just telling you my thoughts on it, my outlook on it. And I understand why people go to Walmart. I understand why people, we have busy lives, right? You want to make that one stop and make it all happen. Trust me, I get that. And I'm guilty of that too. But in my life now, where I'm at now, what I'm seeing happening in this country, I want to go out of my way and make that effort to support those local people. And when we talk about community, okay, there's also the growing community aspect to it. Because you go to Super Stop and Shop and buy your tomatoes and your produce, okay, first of all, the quality isn't there. You might get a little cheaper price, but you're not building any kind of relationship or community with that store. The people that own it, the people that control the flow of the money out of there, who knows where they even live? It's not in this town, I'm sure. So if you go to the farmer's market and then, you build a rapport with the farmer and you buy his produce, and yes, again, it's a little inconvenient to go there. You paid a few extra dollars, but when push comes to shove, and when this economy collapses, or when something in this country happens to where we all become refugees overnight, is that relationship going to benefit us and him? Because there's a community there. There's a relationship there now. There's somebody who has a lot of land that can produce food. And so if he's got people that shop there that are, have conservative, patriotic values, maybe they can go and help him provide security for that place. Maybe in turn, he can help feed those people. There's the seed of a community right there. And I think that that's important. So let's catch up on a couple comments here. Does anybody have a funny feeling bad things are coming? Yeah, I think bad things are coming, JP. I think we're sticking our heads in the sand if we think they're not. We're trying to sustain a $20 trillion debt in this nation. How long we see that going on for? What's that? Where are we going with that? She's a bottler. Yeah, hello, the world's not doing so good. Too good. No, it's not. And so where are we going with these things? We now have these, these masses of entitled people with radical leftist outlooks and agendas that, they're running unchecked right now. They're tearing down monuments of Civil War generals. Or where does that stop? Where does that stop? And because it's not politically correct to stop them, we got police that can't even, and it's not their fault. They're being told by the higher ups, whatever, they can't even intervene. Those people should be put in jail. That's domestic terrorism. Those people are spreading terror and fear wherever they're going. And then as a society, we're allowing it. We're just allowing it to happen. Why? And not only why, but to what end? Where does it end? David saying, agreed, the free speech march in Boston was disrupted to the point where it got canceled. Yeah, free speech. I mean, come on, like, if you don't agree with the leftist agenda, any speech that you're going to make is hate speech, according to them, because they have the right to say whatever they want. But if you say something against them, now you're a homophobe, or you're a bigot, or you're a racist, or you're some big hate monger. Listen, I respect their right to have their opinions. I don't believe they should be allowed to burn buildings down and tear monuments down to make their points. But I have the right to have my opinion too. And that's one thing I put in a video a couple days ago on my channel. If I want to put something out there and somebody disagrees with it, that's what fosters intellectual discourse. Feel free to make a comment that disagrees with anything I say. I will be respectful to everybody, and I ask the same back. That's it. I'm not saying if you don't agree with me, get off my channel or don't make a comment. I don't want to hear it. No, I'm not saying that at all. Every person has the right to their own opinion. Guess what? I also have the right to my own opinion. And if you disagree with what I'm saying, I'm not going to come burn your house down. I'm not going to come smash the windows in your car or storm your town with 1,000 people and start looting and pillaging. These people it's ridiculous. And at some point, the spigot from which the free entitlement programs flow is going to stop in this country. And these leftist radicals are going to be out of control with desperation, because they're not the sort of people that are used to working for what they have. I grew up with values taught by my father and by my parents that if you want anything in life, you go get a job and work for it. I was 13 years old. I asked my dad for $5. I got his life story. I never did get to $5. You want money? Go get a paper route when you're 11 years old. And that's what I did. And I'm no hero. I'm just saying, like, it's not just me. There was a whole generation of people in the same boat as I am. Ken from Teddy's Gun Shop, you're right there. He grew up 3 blocks away from me. I know that he was raised the same way. His dad wasn't standing at the garage door with a pile full of money, giving it to him for whatever he needed. He was being a responsible parent, and he was teaching him that if you want something, you go out and you get a job and you work for it. And as parents, they can guide us. They can try to help us make the right decisions. But they weren't giving us everything. So I think that we're losing that. And I think that we have whole generations. Now, as a Christian, I see other Daniel, and I know Daniel's along the same belief system. It's a lack of God in the schools, in society. We threw God out of the public schools and out of the public sector in 1964 when they took the Bibles out of the schools. And there was a Supreme Court decision that made that happen. Since then, we've educated generations of children. And guess what? They're not children anymore. And this country's gotten so far away from God. And what makes us think that we are going to sustain this indefinitely? Look through history. Look in the Bible. Look at the Babylon. It fell. Why did it fall? Because of immorality, because of sin. And where are we going? We're going down the same exact path, same as the Roman Empire. Empires fall. The Bible tells us, blessed is the nation whose Lord is God. And when we were founded 240 years ago, we subscribed to that. And we saw blessings as a nation from that. How did we, 13 colonies of knuckleheads and farmers, beat the largest superpower of the time, the British Army and Navy? How did that happen? It happened because God blessed the station just like he said he would if we did certain things, which we did. It's spelled right out. And we're still riding the waves of those blessings, but those waves are going to come crashing down on the shore. We cannot sustain this path indefinitely. And so we have to look at that and we have to realize where we're going. I got to try to catch up on a few comments here. You think government wants civil war, they can further their own sick agenda. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it wouldn't surprise me. She's a bottler. She's asking, do you think government wants civil war so they can further their own sick agenda? I can't say that they do, but if there was evidence of it and we found out it was that way, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. I can't see where the government would want a civil war. I'm sure we all see the world pretty much end in our country, and that's not what anyone should ever really want. Well, there's theories about, reducing the population, world population, where it's causing problems for these global elitists, right? There could be reasons why they want to, that they want a civil war. I don't want one. I wouldn't want war of any kind. I worked the harvest while in high school and picked rocks in the fields for the summer to earn money as a kid. I also delivered newspapers. Yeah, I worked my butt off. Amen, David. You're right. And we're in the same generation, so we share those values. I don't think it's that way. I know it's not that way today, and it's not everybody. There are there's exceptions, but yeah, I mean, I had 2 paper routes. I had a paper route in the morning and a paper route in the afternoon because that's the amount of money I needed to operate the way I wanted to operate. I wanted to do things. I wanted to have things, and so I got 2 paper routes because that's what I did. And then in the winter, me and my friend down the road, we got our shovels out and we went around and we shoveled on a snow day. If we had a snow day from school, there were no video games. I suppose that was a blessing because maybe we would have just sat around and wasted the day if we could have, but we didn't. We got up early, we went out, we grabbed shovels, and we shoveled driveways and sidewalks, made additional money. And that's just the way it was. And we're getting away from that because as we see, these entitlement programs, people are just being given stuff. And so why work? Why get up and work? It's easier not to in some respects nowadays. And we can look at it and we can have disdain for it, but not everybody comes from the same upbringing that we did. Generations changed, and so again, we can look at what the cause for that was, but it's evident that it did happen. I think God has a judgment for us. God is definitely going to have a judgment for us. Again, it's in the Bible. I mean, it's there. That judgment I believe it's already happening. We're going through the same thing Russia did just before the Bolshevik Revolution. At the same time, our government is doing what the Romanov family did. And I'm not too up on the Russian Revolution stuff. I mean, my closest thing to that is like Animal Farm, right? I know the general idea of it all, but I'm really not a historian. I can't really speak to that because I guess I'm somewhat ignorant when it comes to world politics. Work ethic is 90% of the struggle, 5% of who you know, 5% luck. Yeah, that sounds about right. No ads until 10,000 views. Yeah, well, YouTube's out to censor, and that's for sure. And I don't know, they're censoring and they're demonetizing right-wing channels, conservative. So what Ken's talking about there, I don't know if that really fits into that because that's a blanket restriction. That is, people that are pushing the left message also have that restriction. I don't know why they did that. I really don't know why, but I don't think it has anything to do with the censorship issue, but I could be wrong. I started at 12 as well. However, I've been told I'm not wanted. How do you think that makes me feel, or anyone else for that matter? Yeah, well, you get to a certain point, and like obviously, as we get older, right, we can't work as hard or be as efficient. I see it in work every day. You know, I'm not performing the way I was when I started 24 years ago, and it's a struggle sometimes. And at the same time, you look at the young people coming up; they have the physical acuity to do the work vigorously, but they don't have the attitude to do it. And so they're in just as much of a handicap, if not more. I think it's a shame, but that's what it is. We're so ugly. My parents lived through World War II. Yeah, and we're seeing, that's again back to those old school values. Like when we were kids, all our grandparents were in that category, and like that has something to do with the way we were brought up. Now that generation's largely died off, so um, demographics change, right? The whole thing changes. Like we're again, there's a whole slew of reasons for it, but we're moving in a certain direction, and it's not good. Give my channel a peek if you like welding, fabrication, survival. Meredith's Mayhem. I will. I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna make it a point to check it, Meredith. Actually, when this, I don't have a pen here. When this video finishes and goes to the video, leave a comment, and um, and I'll make sure that I do get in and check it, because that's exactly what I'm talking about. That support, right? As a community, we need to support each other. And I'm not talking monetary support. I'm talking encouragement. I'm talking, help. Everybody's got their own message. Help your neighbor, your friend deliver their message. Go to their channel, give them a thumbs up. Hey, Finger Lakes, how's it going, brother? Perfect example. Like I was talking about before, I've got friends. Finger Lakes Prepper is one of them. He went to vid.me, and I started an account there too. Is it going to be any better than YouTube? I don't know. I mean, who knows? And when I get 50 followers, I'll start to monetize, and then I'll put my message out there, and I'll see if it gets suppressed. But I'm going to try. And so everybody that I know on YouTube that went there, I'm going to follow them. I'm going to support them. I'm going to help them try to bring their message across. I think that we can support each other as a community in that way, just through encouragement and I know, I'm being a little bit redundant, but we're getting new viewers. So I just want everybody to kind of come to speed where we are. That's the message of this feed. That's the title, supporting the concept of community. And whether that's, going to a local farmer market and building a relationship with that guy that sells produce, or fostering and building our relationships here on YouTube by going and liking each other's videos and thumbs up them, and, get the message out. Like you got a channel you like, if you have a bunch of subscribers in your channel, you're making a video, tell people about them. And I got to do that more too. I'm preaching to myself. I'm not telling anybody else what to do. I'm just telling y'all what's on my mind and what I want to start doing. And Finger Lakes Prepper is a perfect example. He's got that story. He's writing that cyber nuke story. It's awesome. It's well written. It's outstanding, and it fosters it supports a message, a larger message outside of what the story is. There's a bigger message there, and so there's information that could be gleaned from that. So if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Subscribe to his channel. Rock the thumbs up. Leave some comments. And again, and I know I said it before, I'm going to say it again. Back to the comments. Listen, I'm not pushing I am pushing a conservative message, a conservative agenda. If you disagree with what I'm saying, or if you have a leftist approach or leftist agenda, feel free to leave a comment telling me that. There's no censorship in the other direction, from me out to the world. If you don't agree with something I'm saying, feel free to leave a comment about it. I welcome it. That is what fosters intellectual discourse. That's the discussion. That's what we're doing. That's part of our message. I'm not, you want to leave a message saying you disagree with me, just be respectful. That's all, because I promise you, I will be respectful to you. And I'm not going to come with 1,000 people and burn your city down or pull monuments down to whatever idol you support. And idol's the wrong word, but again, back to these Civil War monuments being torn down. That is utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. These people, they should be put in prison. They are domestic terrorists. They're spreading fear, intimidation, and terrorism in this nation. And there's no need for it. There's no need for it. If they have something to say, speak up. You can say, you can have your opinion. You're welcome to it. You're entitled to it. And I would never try to suppress it or take it away from you. At the same time, I'm entitled to my opinion. If we can't discuss two polar opposite sides of one opinion without tearing monuments down or destroying each other's cities, we got huge problems. That is so wrong. Try to catch up on the comments here a little. So, yeah, thanks, Meredith. And do that. I'm definitely going to get over there and give your channel a look. And as I said, I'll try to support your channel. I'll watch it, whatever. Anybody here on VidMe, leave a comment when this thing goes to video, and I'll go over and I'll follow your channel. If you're of the same value as I am, if you have conservative, patriot, prepper, Second Amendment, Judeo-Christian, 1, 2, 3, all the above, whatever, then leave a link. I will come over and I will follow your channel. Finger Lakes Prepper, we got to stick together. Exactly. That was, my original point to this video. We are all we have. Each other. The other side of the group, the other side of the aisle, they're coming at us hard. They're burning cities down. They're pulling monuments down. They're burning buildings down. Like, we gotta come together and help each other, support each other, push our message in a peaceful way, and show the world that you can band together, you can have unity in a way that doesn't require violence, doesn't require wanton destruction. Again, discourse. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk about it. Give your opinions. And so, yeah, so supporting each other, it's huge. And really, if you think about it, if we're peaceful, law-abiding, citizens, it's all we have. It's the only tool we really have to push our message. And so I can push my message, and I could have a handful of people that follow me, and so could every one of you. And so if we band together and we steer traffic to and from each other's channels, we grow that core stronger. We grow it outward. And I think it's hugely important. Thomas Whitten just signed up for VidMe. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know a lot about it. I'm just checking it out myself. So, again, Thomas, when this thing goes to video, leave a comment. I'll go over there and I'll follow you. Seems like everyone wants a protest. Everyone should be heard. But destruction and hate ruins everything we stand for and have fought for. Absolutely right. That's absolutely right, Ken. Listen, the Civil War, it was a dark time in the history of this nation. It was brother against brother, North against South. I mean, we were one country imploding in on itself, fighting itself. But you cannot erase that. You can erase it from the history books. You could tear down all the monuments. You can teach generations of children that it did not exist. But guess what? It did exist. And sticking our heads in the sand and denying it is not going to do anything constructive. We need to learn from our mistakes. We need to show our kids, look how we operated 200 years, 100 years ago, whatever. This was wrong. We don't want to go back there. And I think that they're pushing us closer to a civil war, not further away from the one we had. And I said that in my video, but it's true. I believe it's true. That's just my opinion. So I'm not, a Rhodes Scholar or anything. Like, I could be wrong, but it's not anything good. That's for sure. I've been hearing live chats of conservatives saying it's going to start. I believe it could. I believe, because if you have people that want peace and want a peaceful resolution to any kind of, any kind of argument or trouble, they're only going to be pushed so far. These leftists are not pursuing an agenda of peace. They're not looking for peaceful resolution. They're looking for, this is the way it is. Our message is the only message. Get on board or we're going to steamroll over you. And that's only going to go so far. And Finger Lakes Prepper touched it in his story. And he took some heat for it. And he took some nasty comments for it. And that's what I mean, for support. So he made the choice to take that down. That's his choice, and I support it. If for some reason he chose to leave it up, then I would expect that we should all go over there and voice our support so that those people know that, listen, you can make a comment, you can call somebody a nasty name, but you're wrong, and we're going to tell you you're wrong. Old man, never heard of VidMe. Vid.me, yeah, I never heard of it until Finger Lakes Prepper told me about it the other day, and I went over and checked it out. It seems a similar platform to YouTube, but different in a way too. So, yeah, check it out. It's worth a look, and it's worth pursuing, I believe. And so we'll see where it goes. Finger Lakes is saying force-fed agendas, fake crowds, and higher alligators are real. If you have to have serious discernment and eyes to say, yeah, well, right. So what's real? I think the point he's trying to make is what is real, and I don't know, but I know one thing: they are tearing down those monuments. I believe that's real. And again, there's nothing good going to come from that. So as he brought out in his story, these groups are burning cities, and so yeah, it's a fictional story, but and I think, just to go off to the side a little, I think that that's really what makes it a good story, because it is fictional, but yet at the same time I can see it. I can see it in my mind's eye. We're not that far away from that, I don't believe. And so he went out and named the group that was burning the city in the next town over, and they left the warning for the Amish community. And yeah, that's all fictional, but you know what? When that scenario unfolds in real life, I believe that there's a good chance it could go down exactly like that. And he made the point that, in his discussion afterward, that it's not gonna be like it is now, because now they can tear down monuments, they can burn people out of their cars or whatever they're doing, whatever crazy stuff they're doing. And this side of the argument just sits and watches it, because we're still committed to a peaceful society. But in that post-collapse scenario, that peaceful society is not going to be in our control. And it's going to maybe even be something of the past. So at that point, we're not going to sit and watch it. We're not going to sit and just get mad about it. We're going to take, I want to be very careful how I word it, right? But we're going to take a reactive position, a reactive action to it. And it's not going to be good for anybody, win or lose. So I think that we could be going in that direction. Daniel, we must keep our heads and unite to push back peacefully. Yep, but we are also fighting the media. Absolutely, absolutely. And the media is pushing a message, and again, they don't, they're pushing one side of the message, right? There's no even time. There's no equal time for, you know, again, that for that intellectual discourse. It doesn't exist. This is the message, get on board or be ground under the wheels. That's basically like how I see it in a nutshell. Sure, I'll have to find everyone. Yeah. Urban plague is a real concern for me. Fleas, dangerous, seriously. There's going to be a lot of crazy stuff that we have probably haven't even thought of. Fleas, that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, I suppose, like, you know, who knows what's going to happen in that post-event situation? There's going to be scenarios we can't even imagine, right? I saw an advertisement on Facebook yesterday where the three percenters and the patriots of the country are asking for organization to help get groups ready should we have to fight. And I think, David, I think that that's been happening. And so, okay, so like if you're saying you saw it on Facebook, then it's a little more public. I think people have been doing that behind the scenes for quite some time. And I think that, and if I'm not mistaken, Finger Lakes Prepper touched on this in a discussion he had the other night. That's why the Japs didn't. And again, I could be wrong. It might have been somebody else, but I'm pretty sure it was Finger Lakes. And he said that's why the Japs didn't attack this country in World War II, because they said, we fear there's a sniper behind every blade of grass. And so I think that's what you're talking about there. Now they're putting it on Facebook. They're looking to join together. I think that they've been doing that for decades, maybe. And so as we get closer to that time, it might become more, overt instead of more covert. You know what I mean? Like it might be more out in the open, but I think it's always been there. And I think it's good. And I think, I think that largely those groups are peace-loving people. But again, there's going to come a point, there's going to come a time when that is not going to be the case. I don't get asthma security such that those things don't measure. Sorry for the dead air. I'm trying to catch up on the comments here. I can't do much considering the 3%ers and most militias are protected by the second. Yeah, for now anyway. You can only beat a dog so many times before it bites you. Yeah, absolutely. Do we have any rights under martial law? I think, Daniel, I mean, I don't know. Pretty sure that you have a good idea what the answer to that question is. We may have some rights. I don't think we have many or any at all. If they are, they're not real rights, and they're not any rights that are going to help us do anything. And then, let's look at that for a second, right? Martial law, like, what do we do there? Where are we going on martial law? So like, if you're 20 years old, 25 years old, and you're strong and physically fit, yeah, they might grab you and enslave you and put you to work somewhere. If you're 55 and you got issues and you got back issues and knee issues and whatever, then you know what? I don't believe you're ever going to make it to the FEMA camp. I believe the bus is going to stop along the way and then you're going to disappear. That's what I think, Not going to work so my story can play out. Unfortunately, until Trump appeals habeas corpus, martial law can't happen. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I don't. I'm just saying I don't know. Yeah, Finger Lakes saying, I hope my story never gets real. I hope so too, brother. But again, I see value in that story because it's not a huge leap from where we are to that being a reality. And I think that's why it's so successful because, because it's well written, number one, and it's well thought out and very well put together. But I think that people can see that. People can see that it's not that far fetched. And it's not aliens coming down on their spaceship. It's something that everybody, at least everybody here, I think everybody in our kind of like movement can foresee happening. And I think that, I know for me, it grabs me because I look at that and I'm like, wow, like it's real. It's not here yet, but it's still real at the same time. It has a component of reality. Like it could easily be real. Feds have fun. I don't get ads. My security is such those things don't make it. Heavy security. I think I already read that comment. I'm sorry. Somehow my thing jumped back here. I'm way behind. Well, and so, I don't want to go on, and I know there's dead air, and I get to the point where I stumble and I have to go back and read the comments, and then the whole thing, like I listen to them play back, it doesn't have any continuity to it. So I might just end it fairly quick because I think I've said everything I set out to say, and that was just basically that message of supporting community. And Finger Lakes, I'll have a pile of brass around my feet. It'll be a cold day before I go to FEMA. Everyone here should know better. Yeah, so like, okay, like let's look at that for a second because that's a good point, right? Like things happen in slow increments. And that's how I think over the decades we've lost a lot of our rights. It's not like we woke up one day and they came and took all the rights away, you know? And it's the same thing with like going to a FEMA camp. Like when you look at it and you think like, well, I'm not going to a FEMA camp, I'm going to fight. If you got to have a trigger, right? You got to have something in your mind, like a progression of things. And then when this specific thing happens, you grab your bug out bag and your rifle and you take off for the woods or for your group or whatever your plan is, right? I think that that's how it catches us, is that it sneaks up on us. And that again, go back to the rights. Like we lost our rights one at a time over a long period of time. And so you don't see it until you look back 20 years and you're like, holy cow, what happened? If they try to take them all away one day, I think there would have been like a revolution, right? Because it would be blatant. It would be blatant that it's happening. And so I think it's going to be the same thing. I've heard people say, if you didn't implement your bug out plan on 9/11, you're never gonna, right? And so I think there's some truth to that. So, I mean, I was a lot younger. I wasn't prepping. I wasn't even awake to any of this stuff on 9/11. So, but there's people that were. And so, to implement your bug out plan, to walk away, to grab your family and to leave, there's got to be one really bad specific trigger because you're leaving your whole life, right? You're walking away from your home. You're walking away from, a job, a lot of different things. And so you're not going to just do that on the chance that, well, maybe this is the thing. You know what I mean? Like you got to have a pretty serious trigger. Frog and boiling water effect. Exactly. And that's actually a really good analogy. And so where do we go with that? How do we know what the trigger is? How do we know? Like, I think it could be different for everybody, right? But you got a real good job and you're making decent money and you're supporting your family. How do you walk away from that? Now, if you specifically know this is it, the world is collapsing, the economy is collapsing, whatever, then you can, anybody would. They're not going to, put a job over, in priority above their family. But I think people convince themselves like, well, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe this is just one little thing and it's going to get better next week or whatever. So I don't know. There are some things, but again, go back to the 9/11 analogy, right? If you didn't grab your bug out bag and head for the hills on 9/11, if you were in fact prepping back then when will you? When, like, what has to happen? Like, there were terrorists in planes taking down buildings in the nation's capital in New York, and like, so if you didn't, implement your bug out plan then, when are you gonna? What is your like? I guess that would be the question. What is your specific trigger? What has to happen one day for you to throw everything you own into your truck and grab your wife and kids and go and never come back? And it's rhetorical, I guess, to a degree, but then again, it's something like we need to think about. I mean, I think about it all the time, and I don't have a clear answer. I think there are some things, if the state I live in, like if they're bombing the Capitol, then yeah, you see planes with Chinese insignias going on, bombs are dropping in your neighbors. Yeah, okay, but that's an easy one, right? Like then you gotta go. But other than that, I don't know. That got me prepping 9/11. Wow. So yeah. So okay. So there's discernment. Like I was in my 30s on 9/11. That could have woke me up, but it didn't. It didn't. When I was only woken up recently, really, 4, 5, 6 years ago. So I think the trigger can be fluid. Not sure I understand. Like the trigger could be fluid, like it could change. And I think isn't that why it's so hard? Isn't the fact that it's fluid, you know, isn't that what makes it difficult to nail down? Travel restrictions state to state. Yeah, there's a good one. That would definitely be one. And then okay, for me, I'm building a homestead in Virginia. So like we're kind of putting all our eggs in that one basket. Travel restrictions state to state, that if I wait till it gets to that point, and really, maybe I would have to. Maybe there would be nothing short of that would force me to pull the trigger. But if I wait to that point, essentially, it's probably already too late. I can't travel state to state. How do I go 650 miles? I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one. Because, yeah, at that point, I'll know I'm screwed. But then what do I do? What's the solution? So then there's got to be a backup plan. There's got to be in place. Any backup plan to getting out of this state and going down there is a bad plan. It's not necessarily a bad plan, but it's one that is not as good. It doesn't give me the same odds of survival. And so I don't know what it is, but my trigger would have to be something prior to state travel restrictions. If I wait till then, I think I'm in real big trouble. I wasn't prepping all that time. I was still, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was a dumb and arrogant adult for many years. So, like, an EMP would probably be a good reason. An EMP would be a great reason. Again, is it kind of already too late? So, that's my own individual problem because my bug out plan is a very long trip. And so that presents a lot of problems. The city riots got me going. My trigger is the cascading effect after an event. After 9/11, oh, where'd that go? Disappeared. I don't know what's going on with my feed here. Back roads, brother. It may take you a lot longer. Yeah, especially if I'm walking around a bicycle. But you know what? You're right. I mean, so it's not going to be ideal, but there has to be a plan for that because if that happens and I can't take my car, EMP, or restrictions, or there's several reasons why I would have to resort to walking or bicycling on back roads. Now instead of a 9 hour drive, a 9 hour trip, it's a 9 month trip or 9 week trip or whatever. But yet I still have to do it, right? So I have to plan for that. I have to, it's tough because it almost gets to a point where it's overwhelming or it makes you want to just throw in the towel. But I won't. I don't want to. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try. So, uh, good spot to be. Amish country. Yeah, yeah. I believe that's true. The Amish, right? That is a good, and especially if you, so going back to what we are talking about with the farmers markets and stuff, right? You're in Amish country. If you're buying their produce and you're interacting with them, you building relationships with them, all so much more the better, right? Sandy Hook and the Obama administration's cracking down on gun owners got me prepping. Yeah. Sandy Hook, I mean, that was a 20-minute ride from where I live, so it kind of hit home. I mean, this whole area was crazy. But honestly, that was 2012. It was right. It was shortly after that that I started, waking up. But if I have to be honest and try to think back, I don't think it was Sandy Hook that woke me up. But I guess in retrospect, it should have, right? I guess I'm just slower and a little duller than most people. We networked with the Amish, networked in with the Amish. That's smart. I mean, yeah. Need to get to Virginia, buddy. It's not bad there. Yeah, I need to get there is right, and I'm close. I'm getting there, but I got a little ways to go yet, and so I'm just hoping for the best time wise. I don't. I mean, we have a little more time. Hopefully, we never know, right? But I don't know. It's tricky. But like Finger Lakes, he's mentioned it before. We talked about it a little before, like in one of his streams, like you got to have a plan, like maybe a bicycle, maybe outfitting a storage unit somewhere along the way with a bicycle and enough stuff to where you can hide there and spend the night and kind of get off the road if you had to. So maybe if you cut that journey in half, it could still take a long time, but there are ways you can mitigate that, and that's one of them. And so those are things we got to look at. And then that all tempers to, how much money does it all cost, and compared with everything else we have to do, right? Because we want to have guns, we want to have ammo, we want to have food, we want to have, shelter, tents, whatever. Like there's a million things you can for every situation. And so it reminds me of that, I can't recall the verse, but in the Bible it says, God's light is like a lamp unto my feet. And so it's, the whole idea there is like, in the old days, biblical days, and they had the candle strapped to their feet, like so it lit up a 2 foot circle around their feet. So it gave them just enough light to show them the next step. Because if they had a huge spotlight that showed them the whole entire path, they would just curl up in a ball and crawl under a rock because it would be so overwhelmingly daunting. And so I think in a way, we have to kind of approach this like that too. We have to have several plans. So in one respect, you have to have the big picture in mind. But at the same time, if you really look at the big picture, it can be overwhelming. So when you break it down, you have to break it down into, little steps. And as you're doing your planning, you have to plan it step by step. And I'll take this step, and then what do I do from there? If this happens, I'll take this step. If this happens, I'll go in a different direction. And so, with the big picture in mind, the plan has to be a series of little steps, if that makes sense. I know. it's overwhelming. Let's just say that. I have my bike just about built, but around where I live, it'll be best to use. Tons of ways to outfit a bike, yeah. And before I had my spine rebuilt and different surgeries and stuff, I could pedal a bike all day long without ever getting tired or winded or sore or whatever. Like, I don't know. That was a long time ago. So biking, I mean, okay, so you do what you got to do. I mean, I'm going to have to do it, but it's going to be hard. Hey, Rescue Boss. So, all right, I think I'm going to wrap it up. Unless anybody has any questions or any other points they want to go over, I think Tim and Daniel are Terminators. I don't know about that. That's very flattering, Finger Lakes. But I don't know about that. I don't feel like a Terminator. Sometimes I feel like I'm 100 years old. But I tell you what, and we talked about this before. I talked about this before, like when we were discussing like people being rejected from mags because of their age or whatever. There's more value to someone in a group than physical accruity, and physical accruity is important. I'm not trying to diminish that, but I have some physical issues, but I want to bring a good attitude. I'd be willing to do any job. I'd be willing to, I don't feel that I'm better than a lot of other people or that I'm too good to do any specific task. And so there's humility, there's discernment, there's good judgment, there's all those things that bring value to a people. And I know that's a whole different discussion, but maybe we're not all Terminators. Maybe we're not all, young ground pounders, like 26-year-old Marine Corps veteran who can put on a 60-pound pack and hike 20 miles and never break a sweat. And those people are valuable, right? And I'd like to be in a group with a few of them, but you can't have all of them either because you got to have variety. It's just like our plant, like our bug out plans. There has to be a variety. There has to be variations on everything. It's the same thing with the human component. You need wisdom, you need discernment, you need good judgment, and you need youth and strength and speed too. So you need them all. You need it all. So set up a small lawnmower engine with an oversized muffler. Yeah, I could drive my lawnmower down there. I go through the woods. I don't know. Like, I'm just really hoping that I'm going to get there before it happens. Because even then, it'll be a huge struggle, but I feel like at least I'll have a chance. David Ginnett is building a 1-ton 4x4 pickup to bug out because there are a lot of logging and forest roads in my area as well as ATV trails through the woods. That's good. That's good. So then what's that going to get? 10 miles to the gallon. So you got other concerns. You got to have a lot of gas, right? You got to be in a situation where the truck will run, right? And if there's travel restrictions, okay, if you stick to the woods and trails. And so I'm not saying that's not a good plan. That is a good plan, but it's one plan. Four-wheeler or side-by-side with a trailer is a good option. Yes, it is. One step at a time. Yeah, that's true, Rescue Boss. One step at a time. Absolutely. It's what between your ears that'll keep you alive. Yeah, to a certain degree. To a certain degree, I think physical accruity can go a long way in keeping you alive too. If vehicles are a no-go. Yeah, if vehicles are so like in a state to state travel ban and you have a four-wheeler or a side-by-side, you might be able to skirt down other certain areas and get around that. If it's an EMP and the electronics are fried and that thing doesn't run, then so it's definitely a good plan and it's definitely a good option, but then there's also a potential scenario to where that option doesn't work too, right? But I guess that's true for everything. So, I think that's why, like when we look at the Amish and we look at like the old school, homesteaders, I think that's why their chances are so much raised because they're not requiring any technology. If an EMP goes off, you have an Amish community. Would they even realize the EMP went off? They don't use anything of power. They do things old school. So they gotta, so vehicles are disabled. All electrical grids are down. All communications are down. How does it even really affect them? So I guess the further you go back in time to the way you set up your plan, the better off you are, right? Again, go back to that physical crudity. If you're a 26-year-old top shape, ex-Marine, you could probably hop on a bicycle and drive 600 miles. Obviously not in a couple days, but you could do it. And you could have 60 pounds on your back and pull a trailer with your 3-year-old son in it or whatever. So, yeah, old school, I believe, is the way to go. Aluminum lightweight. Yeah, I got an old Cannondale mountain bike. I used to put hundreds of miles on the thing a year, and I haven't been on it in 15 years. And it's, of course, old school, right? No suspension whatsoever. Back then, you didn't have suspension. Your back was your suspension. You just hammered on it all day long. I could get on that thing and pedal to the top East Main Street, straight up the hill, 8 miles straight up without even breaking a sweat or wind. So like now, I don't know, I probably couldn't drive it from the basement out to the road, top of the hill without sucking wind and without my back seizing up on me. That's the key. If the back, you can always build your wind. Like it's the physical, it's the musculoskeletal issues that really debilitate a person. People forget waterway. Yeah. Well, I think waterways are going to be easy to patrol and secure too, right? Like they're pretty wide open. If you're going on a waterway, somebody can see you coming a mile away, miles away if it's a bit, depends where it is. Older is better. Just get the good gas of ethanol or the ethanol will eat up the fuel system. Yeah. With the engine and training I'm using, I've heard of 12 to 15. No, that's not bad, I suppose. Again, if you're going 600 miles, if you got to go 600 miles like I do, 12 or 15 miles will require a lot of fuel storage. But then again, not everybody has to go 650 miles. So if you're bugging out 50 miles away through the woods, that's an awesome option. Diesel, whenever you can get it. Diesel stores for 15 years. Really? I didn't know that. So Finger Lakes, diesel doesn't break down over time like gas does, or maybe over a lot longer time. Huh, that's interesting. I never knew that. Horse-drawn wagons. Yeah. Of course, horses, they eat like a horse. 15 passenger fans. Yeah. All right. I think we're going to wrap it up. So, listen, if you're on, Steemit, VidMe, uh, other platforms maybe that I don't even know of, when this thing goes to video, shoot me a comment. I'm going to go in. I'm going to try to support and subscribe to as many of you as I can. I want to, encourage each other. I want to build community. I want to band together, strengthen all of us. We need to. When at the end of the day, we are all we have. And to a certain degree, that's not true because we all have other stuff that maybe we're not even talking about. But when it comes to a unified message or a community group agenda or message, we're all we have in that sense of it. So encourage each other, support each other, Be good to each other. Comment, subscribe, like, steer traffic. You see somebody who's given a message that you like, tell everybody about them. Help your neighbor build his channel, build his whatever it is, YouTube, Facebook, Steam it, Patreon, you know, whatever it is. You agree with what they're saying, push it, share it, like it. Thank you all for coming in, for staying and comment. Thank you for all your efforts and all your support. I appreciate it. Everybody have a good night. Take care. God bless y'all.